This is gonna be an interesting one. Here we have Gio Reyna was about to be sent home packing. Yo, Reyna's ass was about to be grass, and look, man, there's a lot of sides to this, and first of all, I already know the reason why behind all of this. I already know the reason why, but just to give you a little background info, I guess Gio Reyna wasn't training hard enough. You know what I mean? Certain things weren't. He wasn't cutting up. Up to snuff on the effort side of things at the U.S. Camp. Now I know why that was. He's injury prone. I know why that was. It wasn't even a lack of. He was just trying to stay healthy. I know what that was. I know what that is. When I saw the report, obviously the coach is trying to protect himself because a lot of people were asking why wasn't he playing. I was like, and then you started hearing stuff. There's internal strife, within the camp, and I'm trying to put to him, maybe because if you see somebody, usually it don't even matter what's kind of riff is happening. If you're talented enough, you play. People try to tell me that Balotelli was this whole bad guy, but for some reason, even when he was playing behind world-class forwards, Milito, Eto, Zlatan, Aguero, Dzeko, Tevez, these are all the names that he had to compete for his job for as a 18, 17, 19, 20, 21-year-old. These are the names he had to get playing time over. These are the names. But he still found a way to get playing time, even though he was this huge distraction. So either two things. Either he's that good and people don't want to give him his credit, or two things could be true. He wasn't that big of a distraction, really. And at the end of the day, he was really that talented. He was really that guy. Now, that's a whole nother story for another time. And that means the managers it wasn't that big of a deal the way the media was trying to make it. So now back to Gio Reyna. We're going to watch some ESPN FC. I don't even know why I brought up Balotelli in this. But I love to bring him up because I like to put in perspective because, as I'm going to start trademarking myself as the realest hater you ever going to meet. or something similar to that, because some people, they offer their critique, but there's no objectivity behind it. And I'm always going to call into question where you're coming from, because people always got their little agendas, just because they didn't like a certain person's hairstyle and stuff. And then they'll come up with all types of excuses why not to give somebody their credit. So here we're going to see, you know what I'm saying? Let's look at ESPN FC. Let's see how Greg Berhalter tries to, because he's in CYA mode, cover your you-know-what mode. Let's see what he says about Gio.
Well, ESPN FC on ESPN Plus is presented by the all-new Honda CR-V Hybrid. Interesting stuff from Greg Berhalter in an interview he's done with now this is at a conference, in New York. In this last World Cup.
Okay, let's read the quote here. In this last World Cup, we had a player that was clearly not meeting expectations on and off the field. We were ready to book a plane ticket. Home. That's how extreme it was. And what it came down to was we're going to have one more conversation with him. And part of the conversation was how we're going to behave from here out. There aren't going to be any more infractions. Interesting. As a coach, the way you can deal with things most appropriately is going back to your values, because it's difficult to send a player home. It was going to be a massive controversy. I like saying it like controversy. So now you already know he's talking about Gio. It's not even now. Now we all know he's talking about Gio. You would have been reading about it for 5 days straight, but we were prepared to do it because he wasn't meeting the standards of the group, and the group was prepared to do it as well. So, in other words, he didn't like him that much. He was about to send him home, but he knew how that would look in the meet. He knew how that would look in the media. People, oh my God. Now, watch this. Watch my take on this. I'm going to need people to keep that same energy. I'm going to need people to keep that same energy. There are plenty of players, NBA athletes, football stars when they were kids, and anytime a coach had anything to say about them, we took it for face value and we just took it as gospel. The coach is right. Whatever you did, you got to do it. I'm going to need, like I said, when I brought up Balotelli was 18, 19. And he was already catching hell from hearsay. But I want you to read these comments, though. I want you to read these comments right here. I want you to read these comments. Because I read one specific comment that I saw one specific comment. Ooh, man, I don't think I can find it. But basically, I remember there's basically one. I want you to read the comment section of this. And basically, there was one comment that stuck out to me where basically you said, well, most of the comments are basically saying, F the coach, play your talent. Now, when I was in 7th and 8th grade, and I said the same thing, people call me all type of fanboys. And anytime somebody had a critique, when they had a critique about, I remember Sir Alex Ferguson said something slick about Pogba when people were asking him, are you going to give him some playing time? He has been named into the first team squad. This was like in 2012. And Fergie said something slick about him and his agent and him being too entitled and whatnot and blah, blah, blah. They just took Fergie's word as gospel. They just took it as gospel. And I said, bruh, he's the most talented player you got coming out of your system outside of Ravel Morrison. Shouldn't you give some kind of a pass? Not everybody's the same. We like to tell women this, but when it comes to the dudes, hey, bro, when it comes to that talent, not everybody's the same. And really, I'm starting to think it was just Pogba wasn't kissing ass, him and his agent. That's what I think that was. You know what I mean? Because to me, Pogba's attitude has always been of a guy he's always in shape, always fit, but he's a guy that's not gonna he's gonna stick up for himself. That's the kind of guy he is. And I remember people were just taking Fergie's word for it. And I'm like, he's 19. 20. At the time he was like 9. He was 19. I was like, wow, it's like they're just not gonna give him no grace. But like I said, everybody's time comes. Now for the Gio Reyna situation, I know what that was. He's hurt all the time. He's hurt. He's trying to get into the World Cup squad. He thinks he's a shoe-in to be a starter because he's one of the most talented players that they have on there on the U.S. national team. But Greg wasn't feeling that. A lot of these managers, I'm gonna just keep it real. A lot of these coaches and managers that people like to prop up, a lot of these people are they're dictators. They're wannabe dictators at best. And even the great ones, the great ones that we like to lift up. Coach Greg Adams was just talking about this the other day. These great managers that we lift up, a lot of those guys are dirt bags, but we give them way too much credit than we should. Like the ones that are actually good, like the actual good managers that do things by the book, that are actually clean. they don't even get the credit that they deserve. And you can tell who they are. You know what I mean? And it's just like, this is what happens when you guys keep pushing. They always just follow the manager. You know, you always take the manager's word for it. Now you have a manager, a bang average manager like Greg. I'm literally looking at his stuff, his tactics. I'm literally like, how did he get this job? But he felt that Gio Reyna would be best served on the bench, even though he's just so insensitive to the situation. I'm not even part of the camp. I know what the situation is. Gio is hurt all the time. That's why he's not trying so hard. There have been plenty of players in the past, great players, that didn't even train for their clubs. Forget pro. Everybody has been on a club team in their and they've played with a certain talented players, and they wouldn't even show up to a lot of these practices, but they got a chance to play on game day. Why? Because they were the most talented player on the pitch. Exceptions are made all the time. But a lot of these managers' egos is literally a little bit too high. Even the great ones, a little bit too high of themselves, and they didn't make certain exceptions. That trickle-down effect, you guys got to start calling these big coaches out for being a little bit too egotistical, and you guys didn't for the players that you didn't like. But it was interesting for this subject. It's interesting where it's somebody that you like, Gio Reyna, and Lord knows he could have been a diva. He could have been a diva at the camp. We don't know, because Greg is saying here, Coach Greg saying he had to apologize to the whole camp. Now, Gio has never came off across as a diva, but you see, I just want you to look what Coach Greg is saying here. He's basically trying to make it look like Gio's a diva, and you've never heard that from anybody else. But imagine this is the year 2011. This is the year 2012. And you know what I'm saying? And it's Balotelli, or it's or it's Sterling. you know what I'm saying? I'm naming these names for a reason. Now imagine it's these guys. Hey yo, listen, man. I know people don't want to look. This is an interesting topic, man. I like talking about stuff like this, man. Just now imagine, you see how he's just trying to, you see how, I know I took a long time to get to that point, but you see how Coach Greg is trying to make it, well, it's him. He didn't deserve to be on the pitch because I say so. Bruh. Some of these players that he put on the pitch instead of Reyna, I'm like, what? I'm not even a fan of American soccer. You know how I feel about this stuff. And I saw some of these players. I was like, why is Reyna not on the pitch? I'm like, is he hurt? What's happening? Now he comes out with this quote. But look at the stuff that these coaches do when they at CYA mode, and how quick they'll throw their own players under the bus. Now, like I'm saying, imagine it's 2012. Who's a controversial American soccer star? I don't know if we have. I'll say, let's just take, but like I said, let's just take Russell Westbrook. You know what I'm saying? From basketball. Manager comes in, doesn't like the guy. And now we start putting little quotes like this up there. Do you know how many coaches do that? That's not just Coach Greg Berhalter be doing that slime stuff. I've been seeing that shit my whole life. Whenever a coach don't like somebody, this is why I try to make sure, like, okay, why do you not like? Then they'll bring up a quote that a coach said, or they'll say, in Balotelli's case, Mourinho said he was unmanageable, but I'm like, Lucien Favre never said that. You know what I'm saying? Or why can't it be, you know what? We obviously did in jail. Some managers can bring out the best out of certain players, some can't. And a lot of the times it's not even about the talent. It's just stuff doesn't work out. But you see how stuff like that with Coach Greg Berhalter, and people are kind of calling him out like that. But I'm just like, I'm glad you guys are calling him out on that. But I'm like, this is something that not guys like Coach it's not just Greg Berhalter that does slime ball stuff like this. All right, this has been happening forever with these coaches, man. They don't like somebody, they're not gonna play them. Things don't go to plan, then they go into CYA mode. Ask yourself this question. Why do I think about OBJ in a negative light? Why do I think do I think about certain why do I think about Kyrie Irving in a negative light? And then you're just gonna bring up other people, what they say about them when they're in CYA mode. And this is the stuff that a coach will say to their player when they're in CYA mode. Anybody with with 2 eyes, knows that Gio Reyna should have gotten more minutes. And I already knew, something's going on with him and the coach. I already know how this. I know how this works. Everybody knows how this works. We're so quick to put the blame on the player. This type of coach, they always do that to the player that they don't like. They put out some story. He had to apologize to the team. What kind of? And they don't want to say the name. Hey, yo, so that's some coward shit. Be like, hey, man, make the exception. Make the exception. Why can't you make the exception? Because the coaches be getting their feelings hurt, and they don't, and they'll shoot their foot. They'll shoot themselves in the foot just to make a damn point. And when they get the results and people start calling for their job, they go into CYA mode and they look for, damn, who can I blame? Gio. Let's use Gio, since there was some controversy behind his name. Slime ball move by Coach Greg Berhalter, but that's not surprising to me. They've been doing this to, they've been doing this to all of the athletes that you think you hate. Same thing. Like, I'm talking about, like, there's certain athletes that you actually should despise and you guys don't. Like, you know what I'm saying? That's why the coaches be able to pull off that BS. You know what I'm saying? Like this, this is ridiculous. But I found it interesting that, the people in the, I just wish you guys were able to call out Mourinho and guys like Ferguson, like back in like 2012, 2013, when, athletes didn't even really have a voice like that. And then you just took their opinion for it. I just wish you guys were there to defend my guys when they were young, when they were like 19, 18 years old. So it's a little bit of bitterness in me with that, but it is what it is on that. That's just my thoughts on it,